Sweden. It is definitely one of the countries to exist of all time. And one of the things that it has that sets it apart from other minor nation powers? That's right, its large domestic defense industry. And today I'm going to be your American Foreign Advisor guide to the first procurements of aircraft to its latest homegrown 6th generation multi-role fighter jet. I will teach you to fly and give you what I gather to be the best strategies and tactics for these aircraft, and give historical backgrounds on all of them to boot. So let's jump into the cockpit of the first aircraft we got, the J-6B. This aircraft, despite being the first fighter you get in the tech tree, is not actually a foreign design like you might think. It is a homegrown design. The design work starts back in the 1920s. Svenska Aero Company originally started the project as a private venture internally known as the SA-11. The company contacted the Swedish Aerial Board to request design guidelines for what the Swedish military would want in a fighter, but did not receive feedback from the Swedish government, which then inspired the company to look abroad for an idea of what a new fighter design should entail. Design work was continued out of the belief that the government would come around to the realization that they need a new fighter, and finally they did in the late 1920s after it became clear that tensions were only going to keep rising on mainland Europe. The fighter itself takes most of its design inspiration and cues from the British Hawk fighter, which can be seen in its overall very streamlined design for a biplane, with the exception of the radial engine, which is a Bristol Jupiter 8F with low compression ratios, ideal for the type of combat at this tier, that being turning and burning dogfights and energy fighting mostly. Your best playstyle for this plane is going to be using basic energy tactics like making sure you always have energy or are in a position to regain energy. So your average match should start with you climbing to roughly around 5,000 feet, give or take. Dive on the most opportune target, make a pass. If you don't get them on the first pass, don't give in to a dogfight unless it's just you two and you know you can outturn them. Otherwise, extend out, climb back up, loop around, engage. Only use your turn rate as a last resort. Repeat until either out of ammo, outnumbered, or ideally you win. You know, that could happen too, I suppose. Overall, the J-6B is a very solid first fighter and is capable of performing most mainline fighter tactics, albeit not performing any playstyle very well. For example, you can boom and zoom, but you can't go much faster than 250 miles per hour, and the pea-shooter armament is just lacking in high-speed passes. But as an energy fighter, it's just about good enough. The J-6B will indeed give any enemy of IKEA land a headache at the very least. Looking forward to the immediate prelude to World War II in the mid-1930s, the Swedish Defense Ministry set a goal for 1 new fighter squadron and 4 new bomber squadrons. We will be taking a look-see at what aircraft they ended up getting to suit the bomber role, but for now, we will just be examining the fighter that was selected for the fighter role. The Gloucester Gladiator was delivered to the Swedish Air Force on April 15, 1937, and locally designated as the Jagdplan 8. Initial impressions of the Gloucester Gladiator were mixed, to say the least. While the Gladiator was brand new, having been delivered to the RAF squadrons in February of 1937, only a month before, similar to other British early war aircraft like the Fairey Swordfish, it was widely perceived and accepted that their airframes and overall design language was outdated before even the first prototypes were built. With other airframes like the Hurricane, Bf-109, and even things like the P-36 far outclassing the Gladiator. And with all of those planes being in service by the time the Gladiator reached RAF squadrons, the Swedes weren't exactly what you'd call impressed at the plucky little biplane. But being in a bit of a tough situations in terms of defense funding due to significant isolationist opposition to such things in Swedish politics at the time, preluding the war, They went ahead and placed an order of 55 aircraft whose airframes would be shipped in-country and would have their engines and armament fitted. Which leads us into the particular Gladiator we have in-game, the J-8A, with a Mercury 7A-AS radial engine. It only puts out under 750 horsepower. While a decent jump from the sub 500 horsepower that the J-8B's engine could put out, it's still pretty lackluster when comparing it to its previously mentioned contemporaries. The same tactics as the J-8B can be applied here. It can boom and zoom a little bit better thanks to its better dive speed. Overall, though, you're still pretty lacking against anything that isn't a biplane, and even for a biplane, you're pretty sluggish and not very agile, so don't even try to combat something like a Japanese or Russian biplane. They will turn circles around you. Basically, you're going to want to climb as high as you can at the start of a match, dive on the most opportune target, do your best to avoid monoplanes, use your energy to escape from unfavorable turn engagements before you fully commit to a turn and burn situation, and overall just fly conservatively. Not exactly a great aircraft. I'd probably play the Hawk over the Gladiator. It does have a little bit better engine power, and if you're fully committed to the boom and zoom playstyle, then I guess this is your plane. But if you're able to employ a wide variety of tactics in the heat of battle, I would more than suggest the previously mentioned fighter. Finally, the last biplane. Thank God. Okay, so, the J-11. What can be said about a plane that was designed by a tractor manufacturer and went on to, debatably, be the best biplane fighter ever? Well, probably a decent amount, because no one fucking cares about biplanes. So, the J-11, a Fiat-designed biplane fighter, so you know it's gonna be at least fast, and it is, able to break 200 miles an hour no problem at any altitude, and go past 250 below 8,000 feet. It does indeed have speed going for it, with no other biplane being able to top that in any other tech tree. However, that's where the good news pretty much ends. With the new opponents you're going to be facing, even with better agility, you're basically a Gladiator with slightly better armament, a little bit higher top speed, and a little bit more powerful engine. Therefore, energy fighting, turn fights, all that stuff, pretty much a no-go for you at this point. Which means you are forced into the boom and zoom role, which, like I said, it is better than the Gladiator at it, but a P-47, this thing is certainly not. You will get waxed by any pilot flying a monoplane worth his salt. That being said, this is still rank 1, so noobs are still pretty prevalent. So that's a possibility for some kills. But hell, even the Swedes were not too impressed with this kite, due to poor quality of material used in Fiat factories back in Italy, and with the planes just not being made for the climate of Northern Europe, they didn't fare too well in Swedish service. Oh well, they were just a stopgap order anyway, because Daddy H's wild ride started a little sooner than they expected. Moving on now to other unexpected developments, we will now see what the Finns are packing at this rank. Finally, something that actually has some official service under its belt, the Fokker D-21-3. Bit of a mouthful, but hey, what else can you expect from the clog-loving, slave labor perpetuating, cocoa slurping Dutch? The D-21 was designed as an inexpensive, rugged, and compact fighter aircraft that would possess respectable performance for its era. In 1937, the Finnish government decided to place an order for an initial batch of 7 aircraft. Further negotiations were also conducted towards the acquisition of a manufacturing license, under which Finland proceeded to domestically produce a further aircraft. Between 1939 and 1944, the state aircraft factory Valaton Lentito, I cannot pronounce that last word, at Tempora manufactured a total of 93 aircraft. And in September of 1939, the final aircraft of the first batch of 36 was delivered to the Finns. The Fokker D-21 was first used in combat by the Finnish Air Force during the 1939-40 Winter War between the Soviet Union and Finland. This plane is the first monoplane fighter we get in the Swedish tech tree, and it's okay. It will teach you everything you need to know about a monoplane, aka you actually have engine power now and can do more than just turn really fast. Coming from biplanes, we still have a good climb rate, but more importantly, better energy retention and good agility. We're gonna need it as we're still going to get outperformed by most other monoplanes. But, unlike the last two planes, you are plainly superior to all biplanes in both speed and turn rate, making you kind of an anti-biplane monoplane. So, just stick to fighting them, and you should rack up a good amount of kills in just the first handful of matches. Avoid direct confrontation with other monoplanes when possible, and hope you can outturn them when not. Overall though, pretty solid fighter. Will teach you your strengths and to respect your weaknesses. Getting to the conclusions now, my thoughts on the Rank I fighters in the Swedish tech tree are that they are very solid planes, but nothing too outstanding. These fighters will teach you to play to your strengths and identify and respect opponents with better performance than you, which is a crucial skill to learn as a part of the overall skill I will be and you should also be drilling into your head, which is overall situational awareness. Fly blind, you die. Fly smart, you'll go far. In the next video, we will be taking a look at the bombers of Rank I in the Swedish tech tree. Until then, thank you for watching. Thank you for giving me your attention today. Go with hope, my friends, and I am out.